I thought there was going to be like 5 of you. So this is a nice surprise, actually. My name is Machteld, Oosterbaan. The CH is like a J. I do speak Spanish quite well, but doing a presentation in Spanish is way out of my comfort zone, so I'm going to do it in English. When Alejandra asked me to present, I was like, nah, I'm an introvert. I don't do these things. But then I realized, actually, I would love to share with you. It's been about 15 years now that I've been an interior designer. I studied business administration. I have an MBA in business. And I worked for about 5 years in advertising and fashion. But then, I think you know this story. Then one day, I read a quote by Oscar Wilde that said, "What you read in your spare time defines who you are." And I'm like, I'm not reading a whole bunch of marketing literature in my spare time. But I was always buying magazines and books and back then it was not websites, but magazines and books about interior and architecture and design. So that was my light bulb moment. So when I moved here about 20 years ago, and after I had my first child, I said, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to marketing? Am I going to do something different? And I said, well, maybe this is my moment to see if I want to do the interior design. So I started. And basically, what I'll tell you about today is how I learned to be a good designer and what it's like to really be a designer day to day. So as you I did not go to architecture school, so to say, but I learned the hard way. I started working, I made a ton of mistakes. I made some really terrible designs on the way, but I kept going at it. There were many moments where I was like, I don't think I should do this. I don't think if I'm good at this. But thank God, clients believed in me, people around me believed in me, so I kept on going. And I'm now at the point where I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. I'm good at this. So I wanted to show you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my portfolio, and with each of the pictures of the projects, I'm going to show you kind of the lessons I learned. And I would say like the lessons I learned the hard way and the lessons I learned from kind of just practice and believing in myself. So I'll start with this project, which is actually a personal project, but one of my favorite projects. They say like you're your own worst client, but I think I'm my own best client. I love creating for myself. This is an apartment in Zone 4 that I bought and designed, and I rented out on Airbnb. But what I wanted to do in this apartment, and I think this is one of my most important lessons, is I really wanted to show the love. And by that, I mean, I really love what I do. Like, I think Monday is equally exciting as Friday. So, and I really love creating, and I really love working with other people that create from this love and this passion. So what I did in this apartment, it's kind of funny because it's kind of my love letter to Guatemala. I wanted it to showcase kind of a few of the best designers of Guatemala, painters, architects, photographers, and really showcase kind of a modern, nowadays Guatemala without it being too typical. So as you'll see here, there's a huipil by Yeah, total menopausal brain. Bye, help me here. I forgot her name. Who? No, it's okay. I'll come to it later. Guatemalan designer. Here's a photo of Mani Rionda, very lovely, amazing, talented photographer. There's some art by Diego Teles, who is a really good chef. So I really try to gather like people who love what they do and who love Guatemala. Also, of course, a little lesson, always try to, or if you can, include some of the classics. They're classics for a reason. They really make a statement, and they really just add this little touch. One of the things I did in this project is I hired a good photographer. One of the things I think we always forget is to really document our process, or at least I do, and to like once the project is over, you're starting with something new, and you're like, oh, I took a few photos and they suck. And here I hired a good photographer. I hired these guys called Leslie and Ray. They're amazing, and they just really caught the spirit of the place, so to say. So I would say if you can, try not to skimp on hiring a good photographer. Find a friend that's talented, do a trueque, whatever you need to do. This is some more of the project. You can find all this. I think they're going to send you the presentation. One of the things I also learned, and which I love, and I think is very important, is to really contrast in terms of style, but also in terms of tactility. So as you'll see in like the picture of Mani, it's very spiky, it's very edgy. And then it's right next to a very soft sofa. The same here, this is like the barro from Selva Sabia, combined with a very sort of manly, more colder table, combined with a very tactile petate. Then here's one of the things, I'm hoping you guys are learning this. I learned this the hard way. I was designing with a client, and I think the idea was to create new designs, to bring them to the market, to like really create something together. And then once we created the things, they kind of said, actually, we don't want to sell them. We want to keep them. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. So this is still something that I'm figuring out. But if you design something, I'm sure you guys get a class on common creatives, like how to protect your designs. Some things, make sure at the beginning that you're like very clear, am I creating this for the project and it will not be reproduced? Or are we creating together and the aim is to produce together? Or am I creating for myself and I will find somebody to produce it for me? Some more apartment. What I love to do, well, obviously this is my apartment, but in every project, I think it's really important to make it personal, to really put some of you in there. So, for example, the art that you see there, the framed art, is from when I went to Berlin 2 years ago. The thing that you see on the hierro is me doodling and making a sculpture. Projects are in many ways a way to, you know, go free on your creativity. Another thing I learned is the importance of flipping the script, so to say, right? I find very often I'll create something, and then in order to make it really good, I'll have to flip it, or I have to take away something, or I have to duplicate something that maybe is not very logical to duplicate. So when you've created something, try to see if there's something that you can do to kind of flip the script, so to say. Then I think also as interior designers, one of our roles is not just designing, but it's really, we're very much curators of grades. Again, this is kind of where I said, show the love, like know what's going on in the world of design, of architecture, make sure you know everybody, make sure you know what their new projects are, so you can really be a curator of grades. This is a chair by Labrica, and then on the top there's a little piece of art by a gallery called By House Guest. These guys are great as well, so make sure you know what's going on and you involucrar all these special items into your designs. Then this is a project we created a few years ago in a building on Plaza Berlin, Elemento. It's really nice to do. These guys were very much like, you do your thing and we trust you. That those clients are wonderful. And a few things we learned here was, one is very much develop your color feel. I think one of the ways how I learned to be a good designer is because when I was scrolling and pinning away on Pinterest, and I have a lot of pins. I mean, like we're talking 80,000 kind of number. But to see, like, when I see an image and I like it, I try to really say what is it that I like about this image? Is it the texture? Is it the color? Is it the composition? Is it the lighting? Is it the volume? Is it the flow? What is it that I like about a space? Not just say, hey, cool, nice, but to really sort of analyze what you find attractive, because it will make you more clear of how you can be a good designer. This one was a really nice example, also like design out of your comfort zone. Like this was a table that's made of 3D cut slabs of metal. It was one of those occasions where the people that made the table, of course, said, no, we're going to have to like put this, you know, interior into it to make it strong. And I'm like, no, 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 that's going to look really ugly. Can we not do that? So like try to push the boundary on what is possible. Because a lot of, I'm sure you know this, a lot of times they'll be like, no, we can't do that. And you're like, well, let's try. And usually then you get great new things. This is some more of that project. And one of the things I learned also, apart from color and space, is lighting can make or kill. I think there's two things. You can design a great space with beautiful furniture, but if you don't get the lighting right, you can kill absolutely any nice space. Or you can make any empty space look great, really. So lighting and art, I actually think, are like the cherries. Like if you get those right, you're going to elevate your project to a whole new level. Let's see. Oh yeah, here comes a lesson that the hard way. So one of the things when working is in life is absolutely nothing goes according to plan. You draw everything, you figure everything out, you've got it right, it looks great in the render, you got the latest plans from the architects and the builders, and then they come to install the furniture and you're like, fuck, the beam is not where it was in plans. It's a bit lower also. So always check, like 100 times. Check in obra, how high is it, how low? Is it according to the drawings? Is it according to the render? Is it according to the plans? Everything just keeps on changing in your design, but also in the architecture design, also in the execution of the constructor. So keep on checking and seeing if what you're designing is really makes sense and it's fitting. This is a project I did in Los Angeles, which was one of my favorite clients. I was gonna say, like, you guys get to see like the nicest stuff. There is on the way to this, there's been a lot of shitty design as well. It really has taken 15 years for me to build up this practice and to really get the clients like this one, where she's like, I trust you, here's my credit card, and I love all your ideas. That has taken a lot of effort and a lot of failure. But this was one of those clients, and it was a lovely, well, actually, it was really a Victorian home in Los Angeles that was completely fallen apart. And it really was reconstructed from the ground. We added a whole level to the house, and it turned out quite nicely. One of the things in this one was we really took the inspiration of, like, the historic inspiration of the Victorian homes as the ground, as the concept. Those homes were very colorful. And so, for example, you can see we used a pink, frambuesa pink with blue in the background. I said to the client, can we paint the whole room pink? She's like, yeah, sure. So that was really nice. And like I said before, like, really be a curator of what other people do, and also of just the cool stuff that's happening in the world, like kinfolk. Some more of LA. One of the things I think is very important as well is to realize that most clients do not have an endless budget, and you don't need an endless budget to make something work. It's really about finding some really impressive, beautiful pieces that might cost a lot, like these Pierre Frey curtains. But then the poster on the right that we framed and got all the way from Sweden is from this website where the art costs like $20. So make those combinations, but really be a curator of cool and great. Some more of this house. So yeah, this is one of the things that I learned, and I think it very much applies to how I became a designer, but I think it equally applies to anybody doing a job. In the beginning of my career, I was like, well, I didn't study this, so I'm not really very legit. I had total imposter syndrome, like major. But then at some point, I was like, well, there's a reason I want to do this, and there's a reason why clients come and find me. I should trust my instincts. There's a lot of moments in projects where you will also be like, the client will ask you, why are we doing this? And you're just, this is just what I feel. It makes sense. I trust me on this vision. Another very important thing is make sure that your canvas, like the background, I really like creating generally quite a calm canvas, and then with the art or the furniture make more of a statement. On the right, that's the opposites. We did the crazy thing. We got this green marble from Brazil. We got this tiger wallpaper, and it's a bathroom. It's tiny, but it's absolutely gorgeous. One of the very interesting projects of my career was the Good Hotel. They're Dutch guys that came to Guatemala to set up a hotel. It's very nice, actually. It's a profit for non-profit. So the profit that they make, they send it to a school. I learned a lot there. if only, because it was very interesting. I had total reverse culture shock. I'd been living in Guatemala for about 10 years then, and the equipo was from the Netherlands, and I realized that I had already become quite a bit more Latina. So it was really about learning about these two worlds and where I come from and the design DNA that I have inside of me, and also the way of where I live now. Um, we did do some cool things there. For example, these are the pila rooms. So we took the pila as an inspiration. We wanted it to be Guatemalan without it being the usual. So we made this pila. It's super cuadrada. It's very styled. The material is this kind of poly something. It's very modern. So we took an old like a very sort of historically Guatemalan thing, a thing that's used every day, but we transformed it into something quite modern. The same with the beams and the columnas. We kept the old design, like the traditional design, but we whitewashed it all. And in the beginning, everybody was like, no, but we, like, things are supposed to be like con tinte. And we're like, no, can we whitewash? And it's a really nice combination of kind of reinventing, redefining. Again, kind of the combination of contrasts, something quite simple as these school chairs that we got in Chimaltenango for 200Q, combined with these beautiful pieces from Piaggio, a little more expensive. One thing I always forget, and I still forget this, because I'm like, when people are like, can you quote me this? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, it will take me this much time. And this is how much it'll cost, and let's plan. And I always seem to forget that there's going to be 1,000 iterations instead of 10 or 5 or 2. It just, together with the people making the stuff, the client, your own vision, you don't realize how much time it takes and how often you have to go back and try again and try again. It really is quite often. It's very frustrating at some points, but in the end, it usually very much pays off. And it's interesting because this looks incredibly simple, right? It's just some, what is it, triangles. But little did we realize that making triangles is incredibly hard on a foot loom. So things you didn't know, things you didn't realize, there's going to be quite a few of them. And then kind of honoring my roots, there is definitely a thing about the clean lines of Scandi design. It's been very popular in the last decades, but the cleanliness of the lines of Scandinavian design, including the Netherlands and Germany, do go a long way. This is a project that we just finished in Denver, in a house up in the mountain. And again, I'm going to go back to the personalized. This one we worked with Mariano and Gigi. It's totally, completely personalized. We had an interview with the client about who she is, what she wants the house to represent, what's been going on in her life. And we came up with, she's kind of a little bit of an Irish witch. We came up with these beautiful things with dandelions and snakes, produced them locally, put them in my suitcase, dragged them to the United States, and had them framed there. And they're really like one of the most important items of the house. would say one thing that I didn't put here, but also kind of going back to really, I'm going to sound repetitive, but be a curator of goods. Like this is CB2, quite affordable but good design. This is Sarah Samuel, very expensive, a table of probably like $12,000. But then the sofa is from West Elm and it's very affordable. So really cherry pick your items. What we also do, and I more and more I realize how important it is to not just remodel and chuck everything, but really try to reuse the things that are good, like this top and the mirror. It's very tempting to start a project and just knock it all down, but I think it's becoming more and more relevant to see if you can reuse things. Here's another hard lesson that we learned, check in Obra. This set of the shower head, very nice, very expensive. When we installed the little things that are very frustrating. It was about this big, so the water fell right next to the tub. And there's always going to be stuff like that, but try to not have them because they can turn out really expensive, because just ordering like that little bathtub was $500. So, and a lot of times they do go off of your budget, so to say. This is a project in Antigua that we actually developed during COVID, during Corona, El Cubo. It's a co-working space. I loved designing this space. It was really nice because it was a co-working space. But again, they really trusted me on my vision, because I said I really would like to create a space where people work that there's absolutely no materials that feel like it's an office or a co-working space. So we used materials that you would see in a home or maybe in a restaurant. We used wood for all the desks. We used green marble. We used petate for the divisions. The lighting is completely no office. I hate white light. The art is non-officey. Like, we did a lot of non-office things there, but it seems that people really like working there because it feels very comfortable and homey. Another thing that I've learned very much is like, do the vistas. It's very easy to think that you've got everything figured out on layouts, but you gotta practice the vistas and again and again and again. Yeah, functionality is essential. I'm sure you know. The cuadros that we did are really nice. They're like these old pictures from Sirma in Antigua. They're really like century-old pictures from Guatemala, and we intervened them. Can't really see that well, but with this sort of architectural lines. But the material that we printed them on is like vinyl, but the backside of it, mate. So it's really practical in maintenance, because it is an office space that needs to be cleaned every day. It's not a home. The same with the tables, like the enchufes are underneath. Like, little details like that really do make a difference. This is the office of Ecofiltro that we designed, which is in El Cubo, but has its own look. I think it's like what I said before. I think one of the important things for me about designing is like finding the linearity, finding the lines and the flow, but then kind of throwing it off balance a little bit and seeing where can I disrupt what I'm doing. Another thing that I find very important is the concept and the lookbook. I spend a lot of time on that because I find that if I do that well, then the execution of the design becomes a lot easier, and I don't get distracted, so to say, in the execution by nice things that I'm seeing. If I do the concept well and I really think it through and lo ideo like completely, then I know where I'm going, and I know that the end result is really going to look like what I have in my head and what we have on paper for the lookbook. This is more Ecofiltro, more Mariano. I like working with them. But these are like, again, like I love making statements with art, and I truly believe the bigger the better. These are like, they're taller than me. They're about this tall and this wide. They're huge. So try to make statements. And back to the tactility, use materials that you love the touch of it. This was a project we developed in Zone 4, which was really fun. We developed this little apartment, and it was a real puzzle because that little apartment is 17 square meters. It's tiny. So how do we make sure it's functional and good looking? Some more customized. We designed each and every piece in this design. Okay, here comes, I come back to my first slide and I'll be done soon. Hire a good photographer. Here I cheaped out. The pictures are okay, but they're not great. And I'm regretting that. I'm like, I should have hired the more expensive one. So I still fall into that one. This is a bit of an old project, but I think it's very important for me to include a bit of rock and roll, a bit of edgy, a bit of sexy, a bit of cool. That is for me. Like, I come from Amsterdam. Amsterdam has that edgy coolness to it. So it's very much like being true to myself. And I think that's one of the things, like really try to find like what is your edge and what is your design DNA, so to say. And then sometimes you gotta accept the ugly, because that is really not very nice. But couldn't tear the house down, so we had to make it work. Some more combining of the old and new. And then one of the things I love to do is being an introvert but an enthusiast about what I do. I used to write for Habitat when it still existed, and I really loved to share my passion for design. So I wrote for them for quite a few years, a lot of articles about a lot of different things. And I wanted to finish up with this one. It's real easy to get stuck in work and get stuck in clients and bills and planning and execution and all that stuff, but really, really make sure that you keep on being inspired. Not only because it makes you a better designer, but also because it makes your job a whole lot more fun. So every time I go to visit a city, whether it's family or for work, I'm the crazy person who has like 200 places on Google Maps researched and marked so that I can go see that little restaurant or that shop and just absorb all the beautiful designs out there. And that's it. Thank you, guys.